Welcome back to the Roll Off a Tangent podcast, people. It's been a very long time. We have had a very long hiatus. There were some difficulties that some of us were having over the past 6 or 7 months that required some time to deal with. In the interim, some of you might notice that we are only three. Cass has other schedules that she needs to pursue, schedules of her own that she needs to pursue, so unfortunately she can no longer join us. However, we, the original Three Musketeers, are still here. Yeah. Alright, so today we're going to pick off where we left off 6 or 7 months ago, which is the very last short story challenge entry.
That's the real reason why we couldn't get into
because
you've been writing it for 7 months, right?
Because I've been writing it at the rate of 1 word per week, so no, not really.
No.
Okay, just so some context. We have had this to fill in the audience some context. We have had before the podcast temporarily stopped, we've had a short story challenge where each one of us wrote a short story within 2 weeks with under the constraints of a title, of a trolling title that the other three gave, and believe me, most of them are trolls. Okay, there were some serious ones, but okay, well, whatever. So we each took a turn to write, but we never got to mine, because I was the last. Because the last to go sometimes have advantages. You see what the other people did before you, right? Anyway, I swear on my pinky that I did finish the short story within 2 weeks. Yeah.
I can confirm.
Yeah, but there was a very long break between when I finished the challenge itself and when we redid the podcast. So in that span of time, I've actually cleaned it up and sent it to a online magazine. So one of the things that we'll be doing today, after talking about the short story itself, is to talk about the rejection letter that I got from the editor. And I thought so Nikki's laughing, but rejection letters for an artist is not a bad thing. I want to stress that. I am a professional artist and I have been for like 15 years. So rejection letters are not a bad thing. And we'll be going over the rejection letter today. And we will analyze it, and then we will talk about what's good and bad. Okay, and I hope this actually helps some people with writing aspirations.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid of rejection letters.
No, absolutely not. Rejection letters are just one step further to getting published. That
I think you're quoting a very wise man right there.
I'm not a wise man. I've just been a professional artist for a very long time, and you have no idea how long my professional demo reel took to get together. Yeah. All right. Okay. So let's just start off with after I get a sip of coffee. Let's start off with the podcast. All right. So over to you guys, because I'm the writer of this story. For the next bit, I can just switch my brain off and not do anything.
Yeah, do you want to recap it, Robert, or should I?
I could recap the themes, and then maybe you could take over. I just want to say that to me, the story is, in one respect, a mystery of identity, and that the powers that be are spoken of in one way near the start of the story and in another way towards the end of the story. and the whole thing is, I suppose, about the shift between the beginning and the end. And there's another mystery, which is the very last line, which I admit I find it hard to get my head around. So I'm hoping that the author himself and his Russian collaborator can elucidate that.
Collaborate. Sorry.
Nikki
Not
did not.
collaborate,
Nikki
not
did not help
collaborate
me.
on this
Nikki did
story.
not help me with the short story.
No,
That's
no.
what you'd say.
He
That's what
knows.
you'd
He
say.
knows the way he probably knows more than I do about the way your mind works because
I
Fair
wish.
enough.
I wish that was true. Actually,
Okay.
my dear Robert. Yeah. So the story itself. Did you want to go for something else?
no, that
That
that's
was it.
yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, the story itself starts with a sort of an inn or a tavern in the middle of nowhere. During a winter. It seems to be some sort of a fantasy world where things of fantastical nature are shunned, but also are delighted in. There's this idea of um, stories and great tales of both mischief and grandiose victories. And the tavern is filled with individuals who are cold and desperate for a good story.
Actually,
That's
sorry,
what-
I didn't want to interrupt, but maybe we should start off. We should have started off with the two-liners that was given to me. If you guys still remember.
Oh yeah. I don't
All
remember
right.
what it was.
Let me find it.
Vaguely, I recall it as being the devil has a conversation with his daughter.
One final trial awaits the hero before he marries. A conversation with her father, the devil.
Yeah,
Is what we gave you.
yeah.
And you did something else completely with it. Anyways, I was gonna get to those lines, but we'll do it how you want, actually.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, and what's it called? The whole point of the story is a story told within a story, as the main protagonist speaks about the truth of what has actually transpired in this world's mythology, not what the people have been sold for years, but actually the way the devil had become himself and had a daughter and had a groom to his daughter who then conspired against him in order to live himself, to fight against this bestial thing called the hunger, which is sort of this like ultimate world order entity that takes everything from everyone at the end. And in the end, it is revealed to us that the devil's daughter had not only condemned her father to this destruction, but she has also condemned the entire world. And that's why the winters have been growing so long, and that's why people have been experiencing misfortune, because she has sort of like sold the world to the hunger so that she could live longer. And now she and her husband pose as the king and queen of this land. And the populace is obviously oblivious, believing that the devil, her father, was actually, taken down by this godly being and not by his own kin. And the end line, the end passages show us the storyteller being condemned for his words, as Inquisition, presumably of the king and queen, have heard enough, and they're taking him into custody. And he reveals to the innkeeper that the reason why the devil wanted to create his one who was similar to him was because he was always wondered why he was the only one. There you go. That's the end of the story. That's the summary. I personally think that this is another leap of liberty when it comes to like what the prompt was set out to be and how it was transpired. Very similar to Robert. I think they are on par with like how we're gonna take this prompt and really change it into whatever we want. Right, so it has the echoes of what was given, right? But at least when I was talking to Kaz and Robert when we were giving this prompt, it was more about the idea of trying to make actually write a story where it's fixed on dialogue, which in the end he did. He told the story, right, and the dialogue itself.
It's basically one long dialogue. Well,
Yeah,
monologue.
well, I'll get there where I think like the part where you walked away from what we were trying to give you, and that is the fact that it is a monologue and not a long sort of emotional conversation between the two. Because the way we sort of made it was like, okay, there's got to be a big villain and a big hero, and the two of them have to reconcile their differences or have a fight or something, and it's going to be like this verbal sparring that will go on, right? But you took it more into like, okay, a tale of the world shall be set before us.
I think it's inevitable that when we get given challenges, being such strong, obstinate personalities, there's no way we're going to actually do what we're supposed to do. We're just going to take the ball and run with it in whatever direction we feel like going.
I agree. That's quite apparent because I kind of did the same, subverted your expectations when it came to writing about the moon crashing down, made it a comedy instead of like
you
a
certainly
serious
did.
situation.
Yep.
Still bitter about it. I see, Rob. So if I may give you some of my we're gonna make some way that the viewers could read this, right?
Absolutely. I have no issues with uploading this. Probably on Rob's website, as we have been doing all this while.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, sorry that I went off topic, but there will probably be a description in the doodly doo, so you can look at this fine piece of work. I think that the beginning was very exciting and interesting when it came to sort of like revealing to us what kind of a world this is. I do think the work would benefit a little bit from having a more what's it called, leisurely introduction into the whole situation, rather than having these sort of like characters just revealed onto us after there has been like a description of how the house is and what's going on. I think if there was more description of the people and the place at the same time, it might feel a bit more evocative. But I mean, that is a small moot point.
Well, I must admit I didn't get that impression myself. I thought the sort of the kind of material side of the story was very well done. My only doubts are about the ideas involved, which somehow I found a bit hard to grasp. Sorry, am I interrupting you, Nikki?
No. You are moving on to my next
Right.
what's it called, set of ideas. But I want to hear your side of it. So could you expand on your words?
Well, the rather interesting way the word devil seems to change in meaning. At the start of the story, the innkeeper Bartle seems to treat the word devil as a sort of fairly acceptable title for the High King. He doesn't seem to mind it at all. he assumes that the tail of the devil is the tail of the High King, and he's quite happy with that. But then shortly afterwards, he starts getting indignant at what the storyteller is saying. I think throughout the story reminds me a little bit. Now, you may think this is a way out comparison with the science fiction of Lee Brackett, who wrote colourful solar system tales, especially ones set on Mars, in which evil was kind of like a colourful costume. They're good stories, but they're not kind of evil as I would understand evil. They're just kind of costumed, colourful, being sinister in a colourful way.
Interesting. Okay. Oh, do you want to respond actually before I go?
No, I will leave that to the end. Yeah.
Oh God.
Giving me more time to do nothing is always appreciated.
Fair enough. All right, then I'll move on with my own gripes. The story itself hinges, right? The center stage is the monologue, right? So the monologue must be not impeccable, should I say, but it has to carry the weight of what's going on. And for the most part, it does that. For the most part, you really feel like you're in the situation and you're one of those patrons, with your ale, listening to this dude talking about crazy stuff, right? But to me, there were a couple of times where I got taken out of the situation because I was just thinking to myself, right, but why? Why is this happening? Why is he telling us? What is this man trying to do there? And at the end of the story, I still have that feeling in my throat, in my brain. So why exactly did he sacrifice himself to go see the Inquisitor? Now, at one point, I thought that this dude is the devil, right?
Yeah.
And that he's doing this whole thing just because he's like so sad about the situation, so he wants to share it with as many people as possible, and he sort of has to kind of reconcile with it by spreading it to mortals.
Yeah, I got that impression too.
Yeah, right. But then he's just like, yeah, whatever, Inquisition, just take me, right? And there is no indication at the end that this is who this is. Now, a great mystery story is always welcome, right? That's not a problem. But I think the mystery of if this is that creature indeed, it would be a much more interesting twist at the end, having a second twist there. Just besides the fact that there's the queen and the king are actual horrible mythological beings. That the devil is also part of this entire story this whole time, and he wants to do something about this. He does not want to take down this world anymore. He is actually now fully reversed himself as a character, and he is against his daughter and her husband. And this whole situation is, like part of him going into this direction. Now, this is just one idea of how this could have gone, but just something at the end to either confirm the reasoning as to why this character has been telling this entire time, or what his goal is, would, for me, really sort of like upgrade the story from really good to, all right, aces. What are we going from here?
I think, yeah, I'll go along with most of that.
Just most of it, though.
Yeah. Perhaps XJ is hinting that the devil, after being bad for so long, has decided to reform to some extent. Because it must get a bit boring to spend eternity being bad.
I don't know. The villains have all the fun, man. How can anyone ever be bored of being bad?
Barking up the wrong tree there, Robert. This is a villain in the making. Uh, so I like the use of language in this story. I like the way people speak. I enjoy their way of communication that they have with each other. However, I do find it a little bit distracting that sometimes the people seem to speak with a rather low rate and a low amount of words that they know, as peasants should, and then sometimes say something quite eloquent. Um, Now there was the one time with the drunkard, and that's fine. But I'm more talking about the innkeeper. There are times when the innkeeper uses words and conundrums that previously, from the way he's been speaking, you'd think he wouldn't be talking like that. But that's just minor gripes, to be honest. Um, that's all I hated. Now I'll talk about what I liked. Unless you've got something else, Robert.
No, carry on.
Okay. So what I really enjoyed was this introduction of this otherworldly thing, very H.P. Lovecraft like. This how would we say this hunger into the whole mix. I really liked that aspect of the mythology of the world. As far as the world building goes, really interesting stuff. To have something that the devil himself is afraid of, the devil himself cannot go against. Was a cool way to structure it. Um, I also really enjoy the fact that the husband seems like just as conniving as you'd think the devil would be in such a situation. Like getting as much out of the whole thing as possible. Seemed like the kind of guy who's like really holding on to the situation, being like, "Oh no, please save me now, daughter. It's fine. I really do love you. Don't worry about it." And and I also really enjoyed the reveals, like the sort of like crescendos at the end. With already, as I said, I would have enjoyed just one more, but yeah, the reveal of why the devil, what's it called, created the daughter, and why like this whole land has been sort of like slowly submerging into darkness, um, and who the queen and the king are. Good, great stuff.
Yeah, I wonder if perhaps a lot of this welled up from XJ's subconscious. So a lot of it is perhaps the author digging down and throwing up a lot of stuff and leaving the readers to work it out, which is fine. I do that sort of thing myself quite often.
Oh yeah.
But there might not be any answers on a conscious level to some of these questions.
No, actually, there's no answers. He'll just be like, "I don't know, guys. All right, thank you for the podcast. Have a good yeah, I mean, overall, I haven't been doing this for like 20 episodes or however many episodes. How many episodes have we had? 20 episodes. 21. 21. The Lambda 1. I remember Lambda 1, 21. That's
Okay. Oh yeah. Totally forgot about Lambda 1.
Love that story. Anyway, we're not here to talk about it. You know what? I will give you one small revelation about Lambda 1 that I've had through these 8 months, and that is it feels like a hallucinogenic like trip. That's the impression I now got from like rereading it. Especially when you see in movies like 2001: A Space Odyssey, when he like goes back in time and all this stuff like happens. Right, it feels like this sort of like crazy impossible stuff happening in front of you.
I wouldn't be surprised if the guy is actually describing a DDT trip or something.
You mean Colin Camp, the guy who wrote?
Yeah, I don't remember who the author is.
Yeah, Colin Cup. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Except that the hallucinations are very dangerous. The waves. If you believe in the waves too much, you can drown in them.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
Whoa, man! I think that should be on a T-shirt. If you believe in the waves too much, they will drown you.
Yeah.
Sounds like a cool
Yeah.
thing. Anyway, that's it. I probably will think of something else to say about the story, but at this very moment, that's all I got.
Yeah. So uh, can you give me a summation of your thoughts, Rob?
Yeah, I tried. I tried to follow the kind of identity shifts, and I got most of them, but I still was left with a slight feeling of bewilderment at the end, and the last sentence didn't help really. But I don't want to say too much about it, lest I reveal my own like a brain. So I'll just leave it vague and say I didn't understand everything about the story, although I would say I understood about 90% of it.
Good enough.
So that's pretty good, really, for me, actually. And I liked the city name Gehenna. Obviously taken from Gehenna. One little phrase near the beginning stumped me about the heavy note that heavy snow rose and fell. I can understand how snow falls, but I wasn't sure how snow can rise as well as fall.
I thought it was like picked up by the wind. Like
I see. So it's sort of eddies of the wind. Yeah, right. Got it. End of objection. Yeah.
I saved you there, XJ. You're welcome.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, that's about it, really. I noticed the creator was supposed to have entrusted the city to the High King. So above all this devil and stuff, there is a creator in the story.
He seems to me like a total fake. Like he doesn't really exist. He's just this propaganda used by the king.
It could be. It could be. Yeah. Yeah.
Because nothing else about him is true. Basically, if you take the work as it is, not a single thing about that the villagers said about the creator actually turns out to be the case. Because everything was actually to do with the daughter and the devil and the husband.
Yes, the creator is like a sort of holding company or something that doesn't actually doesn't
Holding company. I like that. Yeah.
Right. Well, somebody's got to create the universe, so it's if the devil is really top man, then he has to be quite creative, which means that's another thing that dilutes the concept of evil as is commonly understood. Evil being non-creative, just disruptive. Anyway, there you go.
Okay, so can I sum up the comments so far? So one thing is the language itself is really quite alright to both of you.
Yep, very good.
The some of the story elements are a little bit confusing, and
To me.
to Rob, and the end is not satisfying enough for both of you.
Yeah, it felt like what's it called? Well, for me at least, it felt like a tango, but then the last 30 seconds they just cut off. Like with the building up of the drums, like it's not there. I'm like, oh, come on.
Okay.
We're just beginning.
And Rob, you are thinking perhaps the some of the elements in themselves are deliberately left not worked through. Like there's no throughput from end to beginning. Okay. All right. I guess it's my time to respond. Um, so first of all, wait, before we even get to that, so Rob, you said in the beginning you were confused about the way Bartle looks at uh, uh, the devil. He thinks that the devil is the High King. Is that what you said?
Yes, he says the tail of the devil is the tail of the High King, or words to that effect. At one point,
if that is the case, then that is an absolute mistake on my part. Yeah, I'll have to go revisit that and change things around because they're not meant to be the same person. Yeah. Okay. So the I will say that when I wrote this particular short story, I decided to do something very different from how I normally do things. The first thing is I went with big thematic structures here. So a lot of the elements in this story are themes. They are not really a traditional story with a plot point driven by characters and stuff like that. They're more the everything around it is more thematic than anything else, and I also kind of went back to my Asian roots in the sense that the Asians don't really look at good and evil the same way Westerners do. So some of the evil some of the evil that is present within the evil, quote unquote. I just realized that my fingers are not up. The evil element inside within the story is not the traditional wickedness, the malice of Western law with a very clear which in my mind like the which borrows very heavily from your Christian heritage, whereas in the East it's more like
yin and yang.
Well, it's not quite. It's like there's certain we there are certain things that are good and bad, but they're more like forces of nature than a person embodying something like real evil or like the devil within like Christianity. So that is the difference, and if I were to use one word to describe the concept of evil within this story is indifference. Like it's mostly just indifference in a big way. Okay, so my inspiration for this so to address Rob's point about maybe some of the stuff in the story is not fully fleshed out. On the contrary, everything is fleshed out. The thing is that the thing is I'm actually a huge fan of Rob. You don't know this, but Bethesda's environmental storytelling. I very much prefer to lay all the clues within the story itself, and then people have to kind of put things together, and that is my personal preference, because I much prefer to work things through by looking at the environment, combing through, like putting things together through clues, like from the walls, what happened here, and stuff like that. And because I'm not really writing this for an audience. Like, I'm not even really writing this for you guys. I'm really writing this for myself. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna do what I like. Yeah, I'm just gonna do what I like. And this has bearings later on to the rejection letter from the editor of the magazine, which we will go through later on. So stay tuned. Anyway, so so because I am a huge fan of environmental storytelling, I don't like laying things out exactly for people. Although in the back of my mind, everything is structured properly. So
Yeah.
so when someone asks me what is what, I can give an answer straight away. So to clear things up, first, the storyteller is the devil.
Right.
I mean, yeah, it's he uses this powerful thing when he begins speaking, putting everyone at ease. So it was supernatural for sure.
So those are the clues that I throw out all the time. Like, there are certain things like, why would he be so he literally has like a first person account of the encounter between Isolde and
Amen.
Aemon. Aemon, actually, in my mind. And so like the reader is meant to question why the storyteller has such a different understanding of the account than everyone else.
Yeah.
And I use that throughout the entire story. Like, I foreshadow who the Inquisitors are. I didn't exactly tell the reader who they were until right at the very end, but I did lay clues, because the peddler's reaction to the Inquisitor is it's not one that you normally have of strangers in a tavern. Yes. And
Yeah.
and also the clues lie in the clothing that they wear. And I described their clothing as quite rich.
Right.
Yeah. And so you're meant to get the sense that the two Inquisitors are not quite who they appear to be, and they are highly placed. So things like that.
I
And
just thought that like Inquisition had a lot of money, honestly.
they do have a lot of money, right? Yeah. And so, as to the question of who the creator is, well, there is a creator, and the creator is the hunger.
Uh,
The creator is the hunger.
so then it kind of the story is not a lie even, because I mean the devil was defeated by the hunger.
Yeah. So one of the big themes that I'm going for is how stories distort over time. Right. And this is just played up to 11, because you have what really happened in the past, and then the story that people tell themselves over a very long period of time, and then it became that way as the accepted truth, although it might not have been the case. And the other big theme that I'm going for, there are 3 themes in total that I was going for. So one is that big shift in narrative over time. Like, what happened in the past might not necessarily be what we know as the truth now. The second is sacrifice. You don't get something for nothing, and that is what the hunger embodies. If you were to make a demand of the hunger will exact a price in return. And this is sort of like there is no free lunch in the world. And the very last theme is is character acceptance and and not quite repentance, but seeing things through to the end. So Nikki asks, why is the devil giving himself up and stuff like that, right? So why? When I wrote the story, this is happening. The timeline of the story actually happens like almost all the way to the end, just before the end, and the devil is basically going to Jahan. That's how I have the sound of the name in my mind. Jahan, to confront Isolde and Aemon and not really put an end, but to any of the stuff, because they are pretty much at a point where there's no return. The hunger will take the world. There's no return from that. But to resolve the conflict between himself and Isolde. Yeah, Aemon is not really a factor to the devil. He doesn't care about the guy at all, and that remains from start to finish. But in order to resolve things with Isolde, he needs to also resolve it with Aemon.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like they're already, like, the entire world in this story has already reached the point where things are just set. There's like no returning from where they came from. There is nothing they can do. The hunger will take everything, and the only thing left is to make peace with any outstanding issues that you have, that the person might have, before the end comes for them. Yeah.
A helicopter has a very finite amount of fuel. There's always a point in journey where you've reached it and basically can't go back. That's it. You can only get to the destination where you were going.
Exactly. Once you hit the middle point, you can't really do anything except to keep moving forward. Yeah. So that was the three main themes. I would say that the three big inspiration that I took from was one was Shakespeare. I wrote this like a theater play. I envisioned this as a theater play in my mind, and I wrote it that way, and that also has some influence on the language that I was using.
Makes sense, yeah.
The second influence is I don't know how well known this author is, but her name is Cecilia Ponton, and I don't always grok what she's what the story that she's weaving, but I always did love the descriptive way that she uses language, and also most of her stories has a very strong Welsh, I guess Welsh fairy tale folklore influence, and I kind of like that. So I took like the vibe and put it in. And the other big inspiration is my favorite manga of all time, Berserk. And the theme that I take from Berserk is also of sacrifice. That is the theme. You don't get something for nothing. And in Berserk, when you really, really want something, the God hands take your humanity in return.
Yeah. I think you would really enjoy that fiction, Robert. Berserk, very good. Very good stuff.
Yeah, so that is the author's word on the short story. Yeah.
And you have been listening to the author's word.
Right. You see the little quote I've put up, which showed me why I thought that the identity shift was from the devil being the High King to being somebody else.
Oh, well, I can't read the chat at the moment because I'm recording, but
I will do you the favor.
okay, please do.
Once there lived a man, although the mortal world would not reckon him as such, possessed of great I don't know what's puissance,
Puissance.
puissance and miracles, and the fear instilled in men thereby. He came to be called many names: Prince of the Deep Night, Keeper of the Damned, the Adversary, or simply the Devil. You tell the tale of the High King himself.
Right. Okay.
Broad smile on his face.
Okay. So I should go back and rework this, but the intent behind that is actually it's like, you know, you hear a story that's been told over and over again, and when you start off the story in a certain way, you immediately know what the story is about. And so for in the minds of Bartle, this is the story of how the High King overcame the devil.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But you can see how I got confused. I mean, supposing
Yeah.
somebody said a long
It's,
sentence ending in XJ, and then somebody else says, "You tell the tale of the High King himself." I would think that XJ was the High King. You see.
Well, in that specific instance,
Okay.
That's fair.
Okay. Yeah, that's a fair point, and I should go back and rework that if I have the time, or maybe not. I might move on. Yeah.
Robert schooling his colleagues before it was cool.
Yeah, once a teacher, always a teacher. Yeah.
That's right. Once an ass, always an ass. No, Robert. Your teachings are inspiring and have helped me with my writing immensely.
Oh, good.
Would be nice.
Just
I
as
hope
well.
So, Robert, I have a question for you.
Yes.
All right. Would you imagine? Could you imagine even reading the story in like a 1970s sci-fi magazine?
Probably just, yes. Not the usual sort of story, but it might kind of slip in.
I think the issue, at least with the theming, right? I think the issue might have been the what's it called, the focus on the world devil might be a bit of a thing with the censors, because I remember there was a lot of stuff with the, you know, like especially demonic themes being kind of taboo a little bit.
Well, Eric Frank Russell wrote a story called Displaced Person, in which somebody sees a foreign-looking exile who's looking a bit depressed, and he assures this foreign-looking chap that he's now in the United States of America and he can say what he likes. It's total freedom of speech. You know, you don't have to be afraid of being locked up for who you are or your opinions or anything. And in the end, the person is saying, "Oh no, believe me, they wouldn't tolerate me." And in the end, it says, "All right, well, what's your name?" And he says, "Lucifer."
Oh,
so
that is a good story. Man, if you didn't reveal the punchline, maybe we could have done it on the podcast.
Okay, so sorry to interrupt, but I actually do want to get to the editor's comment, but I want to hear from you guys what else you thought about my review.
Yeah, so I was getting there. The reason why I posed that idea to Robert, and asked him if you could see this in a 1970s magazine, is because I think the point of the story was, the way you wrote it, is to write for yourself and to have this creative where you could slowly pick up the pieces and sort of like get the full picture, right? That was your desire within your mind and your heart, that I'm creating this thing for myself because I want to make a story the way I would want to read one, right? Like the way I'd want one to be. um, and I think there was a lot of freedom of that happening in the sci-fi magazines. There was a lot of sort of like out there stuff, um, and I honestly think if you highlighted these moments just a little bit more, like focus them just a little bit more, a lot of what I said and a lot of what Robert said about the fact that, like, we don't really know what's going on, and maybe we feel like the mystery isn't enough. If you gave it a bit more of a push, to highlight those moments, it would feel like a mystery thing where at the end you would have to solve it to understand it's the devil, rather than being confused whether it is not him or is it him. You see what I mean? Actually,
Yeah.
yeah. That's what I would say. In the end, I really like the story, and I really like the idea of this monologue and the devil explaining his life, and sort of being kind of defeated because the helicopter is more than halfway, can't get anywhere. Very Russian, very 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 Russian way to end the story. Everything sucks and we're all gonna die.
Bit like real life, in fact. Yeah.
Yeah. Well. Yeah.
So,
Rob, do you have anything to add?
no, except that I want to stress that most of it is quite clear. It's just, it's by no means. I was by no means in a state of continuous bewilderment. I could follow almost all of it. It's just that because I could follow almost all of it, the bits that I didn't follow, and I can't cite chapter and verse just at this moment, sort of stood out, if you see what I mean.
So here's one thing that I learned after being a professional artist for 15 years, and that is all art follows two laws: contrast and rhythm. When you have a big piece of canvas and everything is black, and you put a white dot in the middle, the first thing your eye will go to is the white dot. And if you flip it, and it's not the color, if you flip the thing in reverse, you have a white canvas with a black dot, your eye will immediately go to the black dot. And that that 1 or 2 points that is very, very strange that people need to work out, that's kind of deliberate obfuscation there. I took the effort of making everything else very clear, except for that 1 or 2 things, so that it really stands out.
Yeah, it's what you've just said reminds me of the frequent phenomenon in literature whereby the likable rogue is a good character. Someone who's mostly bad but has a little tiny bit of in them, and you notice the goodness and you think, wow, what a good character this is.
But then actually when you sit down and think about it, they are really bad. Like Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones is a great example. He has this 1 or 2 good points, and then people think he's a nice guy, but actually he is a vandal. He just goes to places, old ancient places of other people's heritage, and then he just wrecks the place. There is that kind of irresponsibility, man. Yeah.
Yep.
Spot on, Robert. Spot on.
So what about this rejection letter then?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So the online magazine that I sent it to is called Beneath Ceaseless Skies, and I suppose we will add the link to that magazine in the podcast section below. But I'm gonna
giving the publicity for rejecting you. Okay. All right. Okay.
Why not? Look, I mean, like I said before, if you, okay, let me rephrase. It's not, let me say it this way. If you want to be a professional artist of any kind, you better be prepared. You better learn to eat rejection for lunch and breakfast and dinner.
Yeah.
Not
There's a
really.
book called Rotten Rejections. I've got it somewhere, and this book is just full of rejection letters of great artists, like what somebody said. I'm sorry, Mr. Kipling, but you really don't know how to use the English language, for example.
No, but look, we look at the rejection letters, and then we look at Kipling at the end of his career, and then we say, what's that? But you know, the thing is, in the beginning of Kipling's career, he could very well be a dunce when it comes to using the language. It could well be. We don't see. That's the thing about art. You see the finished product, but you don't see the hours and hours and hours of sacrifice behind that. And I don't know why
Yeah.
Nikki's
I
laughing.
can't get over that comment. I'm sorry, Mr. Kevlin, but you simply don't know how to use the English language.
You know, the thing is when you if you can get a hold of the actual thing that Kipling sent in at that time, I will bet that it's pretty bad.
You never know. You never know.
It's like I would actually lay money that it was bad. But the thing is like art is a series of refinement. It's craftsmanship. A lot of it is craftsmanship. So you can't walk into the art line thinking you're going to knock it out of the park without making bad shit in the beginning.
It's so full of craftsmanship that I often find I craft a sentence and I realize it's too long, so I split it into lots of smaller sentences, and then I realize that this is no good, so I link them all up into a long sentence again. So I'm back where I'm started. So it could go on forever doing that.
Yeah.
It's craftsmanship.
Anyhow, let's get to the rejection letter, okay? Thanks very much for sending this story to Beneath Ceaseless Skies. Unfortunately, it's not quite right for me. I found the sense of detail vivid and the sense of place and surroundings tactile, but the narrative tone felt to me more external or distant from the characters, or objective, or like an external camera eye than I prefer, more giving description and recounting action and dialogue from an outside perspective and with an objective sensibility rather than going closer to or inside one or more characters and portraying things more through their perspective and more subjectively through their perceptions and attitudes and sensibilities. Oh my god, that is such a run-on sentence.
Oh, I don't agree with that.
Okay. There's more.
Cannot use.
There's more. I prefer the more character-centered and subjective tone because it better puts me in a character's shoes and makes me feel like I'm living the story through them. We appreciate your interest in our magazine. Please feel free to submit other works in the future. Regards, the editor. Okay, before I actually let you guys voice your comment, I would say actually so most of this is pretty on point, I feel. But it's also because he's absolutely right. I'm not writing through the eyes of the character himself. It's all like you're sitting in front of a row at a theater and you're watching this thing play out. So you don't get into the characters themselves and stuff like that. You don't see it from the first person's point of view. However, I will note that this is a deliberate choice. I started out with that intent.
Yeah.
As I said before, my when I wrote this first of all for myself. I wasn't writing it for an audience, so I felt I could do whatever I want, and I did. Second, like I said, my one big inspiration is Shakespeare, and when I wrote it, it was as if it was a play. And you're meant to have the feeling of sitting in a theater and then watching this play out, and then characters exit right and then exits left and stuff like that. So his comments are spot on. I just made that creative decision to do it that way. And of course, when we as artists, when we make creative decisions like this, we have to live with the consequences, and this is one of them. This rejection letter is one of them. Like if I were to resubmit, I will probably, knowing what it is that they want, write something more with a more first person view, or like
I think
really take you inside the character and stuff like that. And before I let you go, I want to highlight what I just said. You know, I got this rejection letter, and then now I know what it is that the editor is looking for, and then the next story that I write to them will probably be more first person character focused. And I want everybody to take that away. Rejection letters are calibration.
Yeah, that's all right. Except that you might be very good at this sort of story and much prefer to write it, in which case, you need to carry on doing what you want to do.
Fair. That is also fair enough. That is a creative decision. But like I said, we all have to live with the creative decision, and not writing what the audience is looking for means you have to find another way to connect with people who prefer that.
There are two ways to deal with a publisher that doesn't like something that you've written to them. Just the same way as in any business interaction. When you find somebody who does not seem to prefer your product, you either change the product so that they like it, or you, I'll tell you a short Russian joke. So 3 men, a politician, a soldier, and a scientist are hanging out together. They all seem to get this similar cough at the same time. They all go to the same doctor, and they say to him, we've got this cough, and he runs stuff on their lungs, and a week later gets them all together and says, look, you've got terminal illness. You're all gonna die in 1 year. There's nothing I can do. It's over. So the politician goes out in the blaze of glory, drinks himself to death, has fun, goes out in the parties, abandons all his responsibilities, dies the next month. The soldier stresses about the whole situation. He sort of puts his affairs in order, tries to push himself, quits the military, starts a business, tries to sort of create this situation for his family so that they can live without him, dies in the next 7 months, happy that he's done everything he could in order to get his life together. 5 years later, the doctor is in a bar drinking, and the scientist comes over to him. He's like, hey, how you doing? Everything's all right? What's the new thing? Heard about this and that. And the doctor's like, this is impossible. You're a ghost. How did you come over here? How did you survive? He's like, I just went to another doctor. That is something that you can do yourself. If somebody doesn't like your work, you can always try somebody else. Now, it is a good lesson to also understand that this is an industry, and no matter who you will go to, they will have their preferences, they will have their desires, and you are not even playing whether your work is good or not. Honestly, you're playing whether the editor likes this type of stuff.
So I will just repeat myself. As a creative, as a person who created a piece of work, you can make whatever creative decisions that you want, and you're free to do whatever you want. You just have to live with the consequences. That's it. Yeah.
You are entirely right. But
none of the things that you do as a creative, do you target your thing for audience? Do you just go your own way? Do you do it my way or the highway? And you just go out and find people who like your stuff and stuff like that. None of whatever decision that creative takes in regards to that is not wrong. They just have different
consequences.
Yeah, exactly. And I what I've been finding, as a East Asian guy talking to Western people, sometimes the way I use consequences is not the way Westerners hear the word consequences. When I say consequences, I just mean it as you do something and then that is the result. But when what I find with most folks is when they hear the word consequence, they immediately think of like
Punishment.
punishment. Exactly. That is not at all how I look at things. It is just you put sodium and chlorine together, the consequences is salt with a bit of an explosion. Yeah.
Yeah. So, as Nikki's joke says, we must choose between consequences. I think one could adapt that joke to weather forecasts, because I find that you get different weather forecasts for the same place according to what website you look at. So
It's true.
yeah. So if you don't like one forecast, you can just find someone that says it's going to be sunny.
Yes, but always bring an umbrella anyway.
Very, very Chinese. So the word consequence implies a negative associations. Perhaps maybe if you use the word like byproducts, you have to live with the byproduct.
That could be. I probably should be finding different words to use, but like sometimes the word is just stuck inside my head because I don't
Just
see it
cause
that
and
way.
effect. Yeah, just cause and effect.
Cause and effect.
The issue actually is a lot of the words associated with what happens next. It usually sound very negative in English, like fallout, aftermath, or repercussion.
Aftermath is all right. It's just literally, it just means the bits of stubble that sprout after you've harvested the field. Bits you've left out. They're the aftermath. So that's all right, really.
Well, I don't know. I am. This is my second language. To me, aftermath sounds terrible.
It's because
I can see how that came to be, because like the word itself is usually used after describing a catastrophe.
Yeah.
Man-made catastrophe, I might add.
Fallout is definitely probably the worst way, like, to describe anything. Yeah, the fallout. All right, cool.
Yeah.
All right, so everything's gone then, or was?
Yeah.
Yes. It's because connotations. People go for connotations rather than denotations, which annoys me a bit. I mean, I say connotations, schmonnotations. Just forget the connotations. Just go for what the blinking word actually means.
Yeah, fair enough.
You know what? You could just say results.
Yeah.
Accept the results.
Or consequences, which just comes from Latin word sequor, meaning to follow.
We ban this word, Robert. We ban it. It's over.
So yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough for me, you guys. You Westerners are weird.
I've got lumped into with you guys, Robert. Finally. Yeah. Overall opinion, great story. Good stuff.
Also,
very well written.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I also want to add another thing is one of the other thing that I wanted to know with the rejection letter, because when I sent it in, I know like 90-80% probability I will get a rejection letter. One of the things that I wanted to find out is whether the language itself, the use of the English language is good enough. And to me, this letter basically is telling me that there's nothing wrong with my craftsmanship.
That's right. There isn't. The one word I think you used wrongly was trundle in the story.
Trundle.
You said trundle when the person trundled in, but trundle means something with wheels.
Yeah, but
Um,
nobody alive knows what trundle means. So it's all right.
Fair enough. I will find a different word for it if I ever want to go back and
just
change that.
trudge
Ro-
would do.
Trudged in.
Robert, you have educated on what trundle means. I'll give you the honest truth, the God honest
Yeah.
truth. I did not know. What
Fair
trundle
enough. I
means.
mean, like to me though, and no disrespect to Robert. Those are fine tuning. In my mind, there are categories of errors or feedback.
Hmm.
Things like replacing a word or switching things around. Those are low priority comments to get to. They need to be addressed, but they can be left all the way to the end because it's very easy to change them.
Yes,
Mm.
yeah,
The bigger things are like if the if the it is the bigger things are like, well, from the rejection letter, the bigger deal is the first person perspective because
yeah. You'd have to
because
rewrite the whole thing if you were taken to.
exactly when I prioritize critiques, I prioritize them that way. How much of this do I have to rework? And then, of course, as a creative, you gotta sit back and think to yourself, is it worth the effort?
Mm.
Mm.
Like,
Yeah.
if you were to
Well,
ask
if
me,
you
if you were to ask me, is it worth the effort to rewrite The Devil's Daughter and resend it? I would say no. What's the point? Write a new one.
yeah, you would have to do so much rework
Yeah.
for it to fit in what the editorial person wishes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I-
And also on some level, I am actually in tune with Nikki. I actually feel like The Devil's Daughter is a pretty good story. Like, do you want me to rewrite the story to fit that editorial? No way.
No.
I'm just gonna the next story I write for them probably would take more of that tone. But this story itself, I think it stands perfectly well on its own.
Yeah.
Some people don't like it. That you can't please everybody.
You just
If you
say
try
like
to
that.
if you
Yeah.
try to please everybody, you end up pleasing no one.
No. Think of the film Doctor Strangelove, which you've
What are
seen
you
Doctor Strangelove.
Sorry, but what are you
Uh,
doing, Nikki?
yeah.
it's like well, it's a very nice way of saying like you're an idiot and I don't care. Like, that's what you're saying.
Fair enough, yeah.
Mm,
Sorry,
it's
you were saying.
I was saying about the film Doctor Strangelove. It's shot in a very objective way. You could imagine somebody trying to do it a different way with lots of close-ups and strange camera angles and so on to try and build up the real way out nature of this crisis that's hitting the world. But Kubrick chose to do it very to downplay all that. He just had, like in a theatre, the people standing some way away from the camera, and it was all very objective, and it worked very well that way.
Kubrick is a fantastical
Mm,
director. Honestly, I don't know
mm.
a single movie that he directed in a way where I would be like, oh, you could have been done better. Come on, man! Like each scene that he does, it's insane. But wasn't there like a one scene in 2001 that he did like 107 times or something? He did like 107 times,
No,
I
like
will. I
107
will.
takes.
I'm 90% on board with Nikki, except the way I would describe it is I don't know of any Kubrick movie that I would sit down and not be puzzled. First class.
well, well,
All of his movies I had to watch a second time, and the only reason I did that was because I was a film student.
Okay, I just looked it up. The staircase scene from The Shining was shot 127 times.
Jesus.
no, I haven't seen that one actually. I'd
The
like
Shining.
to see that. Yeah, I've read the book, but I haven't.
I'm sorry you had to sit through the book.
Yeah, listen. So Stephen King, hey, don't like your stories, but props to you for being so popular and, just being able to pump them out like that. Some of your
Also,
stories are pretty
also,
great.
also, just to be upfront about this, I actually really like Stephen King. I don't like his plots; they're shit, but his characters are absolutely top notch. I've always felt.
And for me, plot is what matters. So you see where I stand. But anyway, The Shining is a good book, a little mediocre, but Stanley Kubrick, takes this rough uncut gem and he goes like, and he makes a real, diamond ring material gem right there. Very good.
Yeah. Well, you're inspiring me to try and borrow it from my brother and have a look at it.
All right. Well, do we have any last words?
Don't have children, otherwise they will sell you to the hunger and make you into a slave to your own desires.
Yeah, that's the moral, isn't it? Yeah.
Isn't it? The dude got curious and it didn't work out.
Oh wait, wasn't there a very last thing that puzzled you, Rob? There is the very last line of the story, why he was the only one of his kind in the world. Did that puzzle you? Did I remember right?
It puzzled me. Yeah.
Okay. Then the explanation for that is the devil is not quite mortal. He's basically not immortal. He's been living for so many centuries, right? And then but everyone else, there's no other creature in that world like him. And everyone else just dies within like 60-70 years, like an average normal human. And he wanted to know why he's so different, and hence all of his experiments. All of that messing around with life, all of that messing around with forces beyond.
He's trying to understand himself.
He's trying to understand himself.
Yeah, yeah.
Like a soul, and it always leads to terrible consequences, like children. So don't do it.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
Well, if we have nothing else, then in closing, do we have anything else? Nope. Okay. In closing, I hope that for me, the highlight for this particular episode is really the editor's letter to me, and I hope this helps anyone out there who might be watching this this podcast and is thinking of becoming an author or anything like that, and it's just like a mindset way to approach what is, if anyone wants to be a professional writer, be prepared to get rejection. And it's really just a way to shift your mindset to be able to use rejection letters to your best advantage.
Cheers to that.
Yeah.
There's a M.R. James story, Casting the Runes, where somebody doesn't accept rejection. He uses quite unpleasant methods to get his own back.
Oh, ouch. All right. Well, with that, we will end this episode, and we will see you all again next week, maybe, possibly, perhaps.
Wow, very, very encouraging.
All right. That's it. Have a nice one, everybody.
Thank you for tuning in. Bye-bye.
Bye.